Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday we had a chance to see the film Kobro Strzemiński, in which one of the main roles were played by a distinguished artist, a distinguished actress, who happened to be here with us today, the one and only Agata Buzek. Let's greet her with applause. Hello. I don't think Agata needs a lot of presentation. She's a distinguished personality of the film industry and a member of the European Film Academy, as well as the laureate of many awards. My Splendid Life, she got last year a lot of awards. I encourage you to ask questions. Agata will tell you about the difficult profession of an actor. This is the moment when you can start. Let's. I always wanted to do it, and I was always afraid to do that. To sit with people for a while in silence. In the beginning, to be with myself for a moment. So that was my personal challenge, to brave this challenge today. I can offer you a very chaotic meeting. In the beginning, I really would like us to forget that we are here in something that is called a lecture room, and that I have some lecture in this place, because I'm not a lecturer, and the use of the word lecture creates a certain hierarchy, that I have something to tell you, and if we can talk to us directly, that you listen to me. And I also do not have any objective knowledge in any domain that is objectively tested, which I got through some scientific degrees. I can only share my experience, my own outlook, the remarks that I made throughout my life, and in a matter which is extremely difficult and extremely fragile, which is our experience, our thoughts, our sharing with the audience with what we find important. And as I said, there is nothing objectively testable in what I say, so we're on the same boat, in the same boat, so to speak. I might have a bit more of that experience, but that does not mean they are better than yours or that they're wiser than yours. It's just I'm here to share them with you. If I can have a request to you, I would really want all of you to move closer because I can't see your faces because it's dark in the back there. But also I didn't take my glasses, which makes you totally blur to being totally blurred to me. And for the good contact, I think it's good if we see each other. I would be really glad if you all come closer here to me. And I also have another problem. I'm sorry, but I have a big problem that I'm sitting behind this huge, horrible table. So I will sit like this, and I will feel much more in agreement with what I don't know what should be the sequence of my speech and what I should say exactly, because when I thought about coming here, I had a lot of topics which I considered to be important, which I considered important for me. Uh, and this is another challenge that I have right now. I have never in my life been so unprepared, and I never had such a chaos in my head when I was talking. So I will offer this chaos to you today. I would also really want that I wouldn't want to have like this very long speech and then you will ask me questions. I would really want to ask you if anything that I say is makes you feel uneasy or unsettled or surprised. Let's discuss it during this talk and not afterwards. So let's dialogue. That's my request. So because I started with my personal challenges, the first one a short time of silence, and the second one is the chaos that is in my head and in my notes. You see, I can see those like loose notes on which everything is written down vertically, horizontally, some stars, some sketches. Because I started out from my own personal challenges. Let me start with a topic because I have 7 topics which I believe are important, and I could have like a whole day workshop, 2-day workshop on that. Let me start with the one that I called Being Yourself. It's a working title. And I wanted to tell you about the struggle that it is being yourself and about a struggle in the most pacifistic meaning of that word, if you can call it like this. That it's becoming yourself is means working all the time. It's an incessant work which never ends, and to the extent that I can tell from my experience, I really encourage you to do that. I wanted to say what I do to expose myself sometimes to various challenges, not only professional challenges, because undertaking difficult topics, undertaking difficult projects, the ones that I know from the outset would force me to transgress certain borders, is one thing. The other thing is what you do in your life, because you are not an artist from 9 to 5. You're being an artist all the time, and there is no escape, and you have no vacation from being an artist. You never know when something moves you, when something comes to your mind, when something happens that is so important that it becomes your inspiration to our work, to our meeting with people. For example, I am moving on purpose. I'm moving house every several years. Usually, of course, other things happen that make these uh, moving quicker, this change quicker. I found, for example, in the north of Poland, I found a dog which could not get on the second floor because it was old. So when I got to Warsaw, had to move house because this otherwise I wouldn't be able to walk this dog. So I'm really happy with all those changes with all the moving houses, because when I live in one place for 2-3 years, I go out with a gentleman who works on the corner, or lady from the grocery store. She puts away the food for me. The guy from the laundry talks to me, and I leave my keys and at the florist's. And my dog knows everything, and everything is known and easy. And this comfort and predictability lulls to sleep your awareness to the world around you. And that's when I move. And that's when I unfortunately have to say goodbye to the lady from the grocers and the lady and the florist and the man working on the corner. But I have to open to new meetings, new place, new difficulties related to new place, because every place would have its difficulties. And I'm talking about that because I'm at the moment when it started to come to my head that man at the post office tells me when he passes me when he will have a new delivery of honey, and I know everybody, and I'm in a sphere of a certain comfort that lulls my awareness. So it started to come to my head that it's so good that I think it's time for me to move. That's why I'm sharing that with you. Each one of us should, if you want to develop also in an artistic sense, you should find such places in which you are facing challenges. Of course, these do not have to be challenges like mine. Everyone has their own challenges. If you do not need such challenges at this point of life, then that's good too. But if for a very long time you will have no need to have a challenge, that means that this is the last moment to face a challenge, because that means that you're so comfortable that you stop thinking about it. Even more, I would recommend then to do something like that. For each of those points, I'm talking about the point about being yourself, and about setting challenges for yourself, and to discover yourself anew. For each of those points, I prepared certain quotations which I considered to be, I believe I found them important, and very shortly summing up what I would want to say. And in such quotation, if you have good quotations for that, it's quite often more beautiful than if you use a lot of words. So I will read out the quotations for the point being yourself. When I didn't have the name, you understand, I was only running, and I only felt this or that concerning this or that. And the events were fluttering around me. Quite often they were dangerous, sometimes not. But nothing was true. Do you understand? And the second quotation is, this is the evening for a song, for a new song, which will constitute in one part of hope, in two parts of longing, and the rest of it will be a thrill that I can walk around, that I can be alone, and that I feel good with myself. I wish such a song to everybody. The song about being at peace with yourself. It's not easy, and you will never get it once and for all times. But without that, it's difficult to go out and meet people, and to keep your moral compass and balance. And I would really encourage you to ask yourself questions that if I'm not making movies, when I'm not making films, when I'm not being with people who are making movies, what am I left with? What is myself and only myself when I stop doing movies? Because making movies, whether movies or theater, art in general, it's really pulling you in. It's like a drug. And you might never leave that and just sit in it all the time. But I think that then you wake up, and what you're left with, you're left with remains of illusions that fell apart. And I think that on purpose, you sometimes have to reject reject this and think, what is there when there's nothing else? What's only me? What is my story? What is my spine? What are my values? Which meetings and encounters are truly mine? And that is what I would recommend to you from this is the homework for point one. Actually, yeah, this is a good idea. I think I can come up with homework for you for every point. You will be noting down, and then I should check your homework. That would be a real lecture then. If you have no remarks, or you have no sort of thoughts about that, or something you would want to share, or some questions, I will just move on to any other point out of those 7. Here, for example, at the top of the page, I wrote courage, so I will move to the point which is called the courage. And concerning the courage, I'll read first to you two quotes that I have here. I'm asking you, is it any sort of art to be courageous if you do not feel fear? And that's what I wanted to tell you about. Courage does not mean lack of fear. The courage is that you transgress your fear. And I really wanted to tell you about the courage, which for me is extremely important and which I'm trying to learn. I felt when I graduated from the theatrical school, and I started work that I lack courage. That I have in me certain niceness. That it is so important for me, and that I didn't sort of let it go. I managed to develop courage, but it was so important for me to be so kind to everybody, to be in good contact with everybody, in good relations with everybody. And I would say I was so willing to subject myself to so many things that I lacked courage to say things that I really cared about, or to try during the rehearsal to do something in a maximum way, to make a fool of ourselves, to make something really idiotic. And it took a bit of time to develop that, but I do feel that it is something that I gained. I earned this. I have this courage right now. I have the courage to say what I feel, to try things at my maximum, to enter things which I'm afraid of. And I think that courage is an extremely important trait right now, because in the times of mediocrity, consumptionism, consumerism, and many other unnice things that are around us right now, I think courage is extremely important, not to give in to all this, because that will attack you. I think it's already attacking you, because you're already working people right now. You already have dilemmas whether the viewer should understand that, and to what extent it should be understandable to the viewer. I think you cannot give in what you want to achieve, even if this seems very difficult, even if you feel the fear that it's going to be hermetic or not communicable. Do not give in. Do not. Of course, I don't mean that you should really. You should stop thinking about the audience. Think about the audience, but think about them well. Think about them that they are intelligent. Think about the audience that you're not communicating with idiots, with people who are callous, who have no sensitivity, who do not know or experienced anything. We're communicating with other people, and let's assume that we're communicating with people who feel, know, want, and are not stupid. And let's have the courage to speak as we feel and to what extent it is important to us, because really, especially in the difficult things that we encounter throughout life, we do not differ among ourselves. In this way or another, sooner or later, we are being put to various tests in many various ways, and we experience them in many various ways. Also, euphorias, love. I'm not talking only about finding a partner for life, but also falling in love with your work, with the landscape, with some experience you have. Let's have at the back of our heads that we're sharing with other people without any contempt to them, but also without belittling what is important for us, only to make it simpler. Yesterday, when I was thinking about it, I saw that there is Tarkovsky's The Mirror, and I watched a piece of that film, and I decided it's not about whether you like Tarkovsky or you don't, but I thought that it's exactly that. He was not afraid. And okay, maybe he will never become the most commercially successful director of all times, and he will be put in multiplexes and people will be storming cinemas to see his films. But I believe that if you're here, this is not what you're after. So I really recommend courage to you. Oh wait, I recommend courage to you, and I will read out a second. I will read out a second quote I have here. Which piece of paper did I recently have in my hand? You have to be quick with your work, because you might as long as you have interest in your work, because yeah, I'm serious, because there might be a time when you will not have this strength, this enthusiasm, and the courage. So you have to do your job. So what should we do now? I would take out of this list. I have such a beautiful topic. I will be switching the papers around to find the right quote. This topic is lightness. This will be a quotation for you. Everything becomes difficult when you want to own certain things, carry it around with you, and have them as your own property. And I'm only looking at them, and when I leave, I try to hold them in my memory. And in this way, I'm evading walking around with luggage, because that is never pleasant. And in this way, you can retain lightness. And it's not the lightness, a material lightness, although that is of course also useful. Having a lot of material things doesn't ever give you wings. I think it's the desires and cravings, the wishes give us wings. However, owning something, for example, a recipe for some truth, or some definitive attachment to something that we inscribed in a script, or a scene that we came up with, or how we imagine cooperation with people. I'm talking about lightness of leaving certain things that we believe to be important. Because working on a movie, or contrary to other artistic domains, is always collective work, and that's where the beauty of this work is, that it's always a huge group of people. And this lightness is very important from my point of view. In comparison with the courage of saying what you think and saying what you want, but also having this courage to get away from that and listening to what somebody else hears or feels, what they see, what is the imagination of another person. This lightness, I wanted to recommend it to you too, because the majority of the best people I've met in my artistic life, with whom I worked, had this lightness. This lightness in the whole artistic language and in their whole belief and concrete vision, precise vision of the costumes, of the set, of everything. They had this lightness. This lightness that when there was an idea that could be better in this way or another, or maybe surprising for themselves, they were able to open to that. And I think that this lightness requires the first 2 points. Requires being yourself, being in contact with yourself, because that helps shedding off your complexes. It requires courage, because it also requires, the lightness also requires courage. Getting away, detaching yourself from what you believe is so important and so necessary. And this lightness is beautiful. This lightness creates beautiful cooperation between people, which is my wish to you. Here it's very easy to come up with a homework for you on in case of lightness. I don't know how it's gonna go further on. Try several times. Tell yourself, or maybe 5-10 times, whenever it's gonna be very important for you to take a picture and to have it in your smartphone, to have something that inspires you, that you like it. Try to spend that time that you would spend on taking the photos and take this 15 pictures that you would take, and then you would have to choose which one is the best picture and work on it to make it perfect and to get the contrast right and the balance right. Spend that time to look at what you wanted to photograph, and on remembering what you wanted to photograph, to spend time to be with it, and do not be afraid of what your imagination and of what your head will do with it. Maybe you will not remember that in 100% as it was, but what's after 2 weeks, what your imagination will do with this image, your head, your feelings at a given moment. This is also a signal. It's also your creative work. There's also a signal for you what is important in this, what was not important. Because if you forget about something out of this very important image, that means it wasn't really important. And the processing which will take place in your head in 2 weeks' time will be much more important than having 2757th picture in your phone. Try to do it like this. 10. Try to do it 10 times. Of course, I will not check your homework afterwards, but well, that's life. So much about lightness. I will move to the next point, which is changing. This is a quotation for variability. Everything is very unsure, and that puts me at peace. I wanted to tell you about the changeability, the variability, because quite often people are required to be single-minded and consequent. Of course, if we were talking about getting to raise children or raising a dog, which you took from the shelter, dog shelter, you require a consequence. But in the artistic life, sometimes try to be consequently unconsequential. Try to be consistently inconsistent. First, you have to require inconsistency from yourself in simple things. This is also a game which I can I can suggest to you instead of your homework, because I believe that inconsistency is something which is the truest part of a human being, not only in an artist, but in general in a human being. The fact that I'm telling this to me that one day I wake up, let's say thin and then fat. One day I wake up beautiful. On the next day I wake up ugly. One day I wake up wise. The other day stupid. One day I get up calm, and the other one panicky. One day I wake up as a queen, and the other day I wake up as a Native American woman. I'm waking up in a state that I don't know where it comes from. Was it my dream, or was it the phase of the moon, or what I saw yesterday on TV, or the set of emotions from the last week, the level of well, I don't know, flu or something else. I'm just waking up in different moods. Sometimes I have a mood for a long violet dress or skirt, and I have another day I have a mood for brown trousers, and I don't know why I get up in this mood. It's not only about getting dressed, which reflects our mood of the day, or who did we get up as. It goes in all directions. It goes into our contacts with other humans. It enters the domain of what is easier for us to do on that day or not. And I would want to, again, you should be brave enough. We're coming back to this point one. You have to be brave enough to, you have to be courageous enough to accept this lightness and variability and this inconsistency. I'm not talking about the inconsistency in me, in the meaning of that, let's say we are nice to other people, on one day we're total jerks, so we treat other people badly on the filming set, because Buzek said in the during her lecture that you have to follow your mood. No, of course, there are some limitations. I wouldn't say these are limitations. There are some social things which we want to get inscribed, and we would like others to get inscribed, so that we don't make life difficult for ourselves, because I think life is sufficiently difficult. What was I talking about? Yes, not to get nervous on the set. Yes, never get nervous on the set. It's not worth it, unless you have to play a scene where you are nervous. Then you should do it. This way or another, I was at variability and inconsistency. We allowed ourselves to be inconsistent. It allowed us to see this inconsistency in others and allow them to be inconsistent and enjoy that inconsistency and appreciate it. Not that to see that they didn't change their attitude to us, or something changed forever. It's that they follow their inconsistency. It's certain openness, which for me is absolutely necessary. I don't think it's going to be a difficult job, just a game. Try sometimes when you get up in the morning. Try to find out who you are. Who did you get up as? Whether you're fat or slim that day, or you're blonde or dark haired, whether you're a tall guy or a short guy, and so on. Getting out, sort of start from maybe external traits. Don't think about internal traits first, because when I'm sad and when I'm happy, because these things change all the time, and that's always you. But try to, I don't know, get up as a fireman or somebody else. It's a game. It's a game. I add to the point of inconsistency. I lost my piece of paper when I had other points. No, that was for the points inconsistency. Imagination, another point. For a very long time, imagination seemed to me as something which is very important and very uncared for, because the actor always draws on two spheres: his own experience or her own experience, by force, because that's me. But also, I think that quite often in such work, where directors, I will call it in a general and euphemistic way, the directors like to tinker with people they have at their disposal. And I'm experiencing that at this level you're left. I mean, at the level of tinkering with personal experiences, tinkering with personal impressions and feelings. But I think I have nothing against it, but I feel that it's not enough when I'm thinking about creative approach, because we have imagination, and not only us as actors, but also directors and set designers and scriptwriters especially should know that, and DOPs and everybody who's on the set. I really would like everybody, that also Dolly people and the people in catering and everybody else would have more imagination, because that helps in this job. However, when you especially in the between the director and the actors, if you stop only at individual experience and impressions, that's enough for me. That's always too shallow, and I lack this imagination in other people. Working on your own imagination is something that I would really want to recommend to you. I would really want to make sure that you notice that whatever you do, I really don't know who from among you is the DOP, who's the scriptwriter, who's a director, who's working in production, or is an actor. I just have no idea. So I am forced to talk to you in the most general way, so that you point your attention and you focus on imagination, so that you are able to let it go. You let go of the rail, which is the safe, which is the safe place, and start your head, sort of start your imagination. I have a task for you here now. In the beginning, try to finish my sentence. You can do it together because it's going to be easier. Very good. We all know Mickiewicz's epic poem. I would like to also recommend to you that you should think about it, that we are all very much in this sort of thinking. In this sort of thinking, which we were taught at school, that you have to give the correct answer. That exactly in the way that somebody expects from us. So Agata is sitting here and said, Litwo ojczyzno moja. So we were taught this poem, and you have to learn it by heart. And when we pass exams and somebody's requiring from us some concrete knowledge, we're always being pushed into a certain forms. What we should do, what is good. However, please notice that the sentence Litwo ojczyzno moja can be finished an, in many ways. But you all finish that sentence in the single way, in the one single way, and you can spend your whole life. That will be metaphoric. What I will say, you can talk Mickiewicz throughout your life. He wrote good stuff, and he put rhymes together nicely. And if you wish, I have nothing against that, but I just wanted you to have the choice that you either speak Mickiewicz all your life or you speak yourself. And the sentence Litwo ojczyzno moja, Lithuania my homeland, you will finish in your personal way only, here in this aula, in the mood you are in. And there doesn't have to be any rhyme. That's very good concerning courage. Okay, don't get stressed that everybody will have to finish that sentence. What I had in mind is that sometimes you had to please recall that moment every now and then, and don't speak Mickiewicz all your life if you don't want to. At the end, we will have a quotation for... What was that? That was imagination. When no image is being born and no means of expressing yourself, only panic appears. That was very serious, in contrast to Lithuania, my homeland. So now a sub-point which I called contact. To be clear, when I start each one of those sub-points, I think that this is the most important one, but because it's the sixth one, and for the sixth time, I think this is the most important part. I do have the impression that that's why I couldn't choose one topic for our discussion. They all seemed very important to me. Because I have a quote here, I will start with it. Contact. In general, it's all about not giving in to tiredness, not to allow yourself to be disinterested, to be indifferent, never to lose your priceless interest and curiosity, because then you allow yourself to die. That was a very serious quotation too. It won't be so serious later. Because I think that in a movie, if you work in a movie, you can't work without contact with others. So if somebody doesn't want to be in touch with the world and with reality and with whatever's happening, however difficult it is, and secondly the contact with themselves and what eats him, what is painful, what is joyful, what is important for you, and thirdly, and most importantly, with another person, then I think you will not manage. I tried a bit of that contact by being silent with you in the beginning of my lecture, and maybe I wasn't courageous enough, and next time when I will have something resembling remotely a lecture, I will try to be silent for longer, but I did feel that there was this contact, that initially it was very difficult, and it was easier and easier to look each other in the eyes and to see that somebody smiled, to react to it, maybe correct your posture on the chairs. Everything began to be more and more fluid. And this time for the contact, I'm not saying that you will have to start every lecture in the morning from 10 so every shooting day should be you should start with 10 minutes of silence, because your crew might not be content after 10 days of such work. But give yourself time to nurture the contacts, especially after the pandemics. I know that everybody's talking about that, but this this really screwed us in a way. This artificial contact, this online contact, there is no energy in that. I know that energy is an overused word, and pandemics, etc. But I think it's because these things are important. Something is not going there. There lacks something between humans if we are talking through an interface. If I can't look you in the eyes, changing a person because I can't talk to one person only, but I do have contact with you, and this is very important to me. I'm giving you something, not only talking, but I also draw things from you. I take your attention, your smile. There is some exchange. Without that exchange, you can't work. I can't imagine living. I can't imagine working without that exchange. Without that, what you can only call contact. And this is my plea to you: leave yourself time for contact with other humans and allow yourself for the contact. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to hug people. Do not be afraid to. I know that these are also times of Me Too, etc. But please do not allow yourself to get separated from the contact which is healthy and good, and when it's necessary to live. I know you know all those experiments on small children that were touched, not touched. Of course, I will not repeat that, because that you know that by heart probably in your life. But this is something which is absolutely necessary in our lives. Like breathing, it's just difficult to notice it. I really ask you, please do not be afraid of that. You have to invest in that. Very often the artists have this responsibility which flows from contact, and it's a responsibility for talking about human dignity, about being a witness to certain things which are important. It's a responsibility for social things, for social matters, for what's happening with animals, what happens behind our eastern border, responsibility for what we're taking part in. It's impossible without contact, and this contact starts anew every day. Either we are going on the bus and we look at people who are around us, or we take part in things that happen to us, or we do not. I know that right now we are all sitting in looking at our smartphones. I mean, that's reality, and you can't you can't fight that. Again, I have a task for you. Well, I'm pretty good in coming up with homework for you. Maybe I should start lecturing, really. I do have a task for you. Try sometimes to force yourself to put aside all those very urgent messages, but maybe then urgent but not so important. As important as the people around you. Try to select one person, for example, in a tram, or the person you pass by on the street. Select one person you see for 10 seconds and imagine with lightness and courage their story. What happened to them today? Was it so quick? Why is she dressed like that? Why is she eating a donut? Who is, for example? Because that's where contact starts, contact with other people. I think that's all about the contact. Oh, I'm left with only one point. Now you will have to start to talk. Point 7, I think, is the most general one, but it is called the art. And here I have a number of things, my own thoughts and experiences I would like to share with you. The first one is, I mean, it's pretty short. Do not be afraid to be artificial in the art. Do not be afraid of artificiality, that it does not reflect life to the full, that it does not reflect precisely something that is supposed to be consistent, probable, seen already once and remembered. I think there is nothing more abstract and more surprising than life. So whatever you come up with, it certainly you will not attain the absurdities of life. You might be sure about that. Really, do not be afraid of that. I'm not saying that projects, films in which I played, which were more abstract and less talking about some concrete life, were better or worse. That's not what I have in mind. What I have in mind, the only thing I have in mind is that you should not be afraid of that. Is that the form is something fantastic, something you can draw from, something that you can use, something that opens up possibilities, that can give you lightness, that can be the expression of your courage and yourselves. Do not be afraid of that. It's not that I have something against documents or documentaries or documentalist filming. No, because it's also a form. It's also a concrete form. But do not be afraid to call the form or name the form or sort of try and risk playing with the form. Form is something beautiful. Form is an essence of form is the essence of art. It's something that allows us to hide. These are my thoughts. Which allows us in this very difficult and very fragile matter where we work, it allows us to retain certain safety and security. It allows us to express it in such a way that we do not need to expose ourselves to the full, maybe not expose our underbelly to the head, maybe not say everything one-to-one, but maybe to give a hint. This is the most beautiful in art, that we have this form, which is our shelter. Because the fact that you want to create, that we want to create, because I still want to create, it consists in the fact that in this or other way we want to show ourselves, and the art, regardless of how much we want to expose ourselves and how true we want it to be to our experiences, it is always a shelter. I'm not talking about the building of the theater, but about art itself. I'm quite often discussing what's happening today in the world with other people in Europe, in what's happening in Europe, what's happening in politics, what's happening in Ukraine, and all around the world. What the situation is, where we're going, how much we're overloaded, how much we're overexposed to stimuli, how difficult it is today. I talk about that a lot with my father, and each discussion with my father, despite the fact that contrary to his inborn optimism, he's not as optimistic as he used to be several years ago. Every discussion with him ends with when he tells us, only art can save us, do what you do. And I wanted to, that's my message to you today. Not because my father told me pass it on to other people. This is because this is the gift I have from him. This belief in what I'm doing. And I wanted to share this belief with you, this thought that only art can save us, because not everything can be explained logically to people, not everything can be proven, not everything can be logically argumented. So quite often people, get entrenched in their worldviews, and they use logics against their best interest because they're afraid to lose authority, to admit that the world might be different from what they thought. No matter what you think about the world, no matter which political camp you're in, only art and speaking through the world of emotions and feelings, only making other people sensitive and making yourself sensitive to the world, only spending time in those delicate spheres, but those that refer to us all, only maybe the forgotten triangle, or a very out of fashion triangle in the postmodernist world. The triangle, the truth, the good, and the beauty. This triangle can save us, which means that only art can save us. So, as a result, I will read you, to finish my lecture, my speech, a slightly modified quote. I modified it myself because it's about theater, but I think it's not about theater. It is in general about art. Art is not the salon nor the harbor for ships. The art is the most important thing in the world, because it shows to the people who they could be, who they would want to be, even though they do not have the courage to be so, and what they are. To finish, I wanted to say that all the quotations I said today are from the Moomins books, and I wanted to recommend heartily to you the Moomins, especially the Valley of Moomins in November, the Moomin Valley in November, by Tove Jansson. I think don't need to add anything more. Now it's your turn. If you want to ask me anything of any domain, maybe not mathematics or fluid mechanics, and if you want to ask me anything that relates to our work but not totally related of what I said to you a moment ago, please ask, because your questions do not have to be related to the courage, to lightness, or anything I spoke about today. I I have the courage to say that it was the most beautiful lecture that I had here on this room. Thank you. Thank you very much for this. I have a question about Lithuania. No. About the methods of working with the director. There are at least two, maybe there are more of them. The first one is when the director talks at length to the actor how they should play. There's an anecdote about Gustav Holubek. You probably know that, maybe not everybody in this room. The director for a long time described to Holubek how he should play, and Holubek was listening to him, slightly bored, and said, "Oh, listen, because I'm really gonna play like you told me to play." And the second method is a very precise remarks, like it's like razor cut. I don't know. I imagine that could you work with the actor using some metaphors or associations? The director would ask you, "Do you know the Gerimsky's painting, The Orange Cellar, and do you remember the eyes?" And that's it. Is that a remark that could be useful when you build the role or similar? Yes, absolutely. As long as I have seen that picture, yes, or that painting. Yes, if you remember, I mean, why is it so fantastic? It's because of the eyes. So it's just a signal. Can we also make a connection? Yes, this is a very good layer of connection. This is a very good domain for connection and discussion. Not to force concrete things, but setting your imagination in motion. That's what I thought. I think that it's better. It's not better because sometimes it is so that the director talks at length, but yeah, we discarded that already. No. Well, I've met such director who would talk a lot and with a lot of sense, and during that discussion, and beautifully, and I sort of moved into domains that he wanted me to move, and then it worked very well. So it's very different, but that should not be boring, and it shouldn't be the same stuff all over again. Thank you. So we all know what was that. Can we go out for a ciggy? I just wanted to shortly ask what a DOP can give to the actor, and what can the actor give to the DOP. Could you shortly sort of discuss this about this connection between the camera and the actor, and have you ever seen anything like that, and did it help you, or if it wasn't there, and how to do it to make it exist, to have this synergy? Thank you for this question. It's very good. Yes, there was something like this. It happened to me several times that I had this feeling that I'm cooperating very closely with the DOP. Of course, it differs from case to case. Quite often on the sets, there is a certain rule, or there's a rule imposed that you communicate. Only the director communicates with the actors. So everybody else, if they want anything with the actors, they go to the DOP. Let's say that the actor is standing in the wrong place, or that it would be good if he would enter the light beam or something like that. So they go to the director, and the director decides whether it's important enough to disturb the actor or not, and he passes it on in the right moment, etc. Okay. I do understand that there are scenes which are very difficult, such as wherein I, to a certain extent, had to build a cocoon around myself. These emotions have to be kept by me, and then I have to release them when the action starts, and every impulse or can sort of put me off my course, off my track. And this is, but for me personally, I do not mind communicating with people on the set. It helps me a lot. I really like to be in touch with the people and with the whole machinery of the set, which for me every time is a miracle. That every time it's a new miracle for me, that it's working, that it all cooperates like well-oiled machine. So in this sense, I do need from the DOP concrete, simple information. I need to know from the DOP whether it's better from his perspective or her perspective, uh, purely aesthetically, whether it's better to turn my head right or left, because in the majority of cases I can do one or the other. But for it can be difficult from the point of view of the image because of the light, for example. I need to know which how I am being filmed, because what sort of shot is that? If this is a general shot or if it's a close-up, I can see a certain difference in how the camera is positioned, but quite often I'm not able to concentrate or uh, catch when they're changing the lens, for example. What is the change in the lens? Which lens is being changed? It's being changed to. So the DOP, which has this habit that when he changes the lens and something is being changed, he immediately says that. Or if he doesn't want to say, he just, I can see that he's next to the camera and he's doing something, and he's showing me that so that I can know what's happening. That's a big help for me. That's very helpful. I can see that I have control over certain things, which allows me to let it go emotionally, because I feel my environment. I know what's around me. So such emotion, yes, such information is very important for me. It is also important for me that the DOP, I think, very important for the actors, together uh, with the gaffer, when we are setting the lights and the camera, they should give real times, not the times that the production is dreaming about, because it's the difficult thing is the false starts are very difficult. When I say, okay, it's 10 minutes, right, 10 minutes means that I'm not leaving. I'm holding to the role 10 minutes, but then it's 30 minutes, and when I'm sitting 30 minutes and then I need a break. I understand that it is difficult, because usually these times are required, the ones that production is dreaming about. I know how it works. The production is also here, but this is very important for me. The real times. I know that later you can have a certain delay because you have to add something, etc. This is not the problem. However, if I have a feeling that permanently I don't know where I am after several days, especially several dozen days, this makes me really tired, and everybody is really tired. So these are the times that comes to my mind. So what can the actor do for the DOP apart from standing in the right spot? And not, yes, and maybe not walking too fast when the dolly is rolling around. No, I would have to hear that from DOPs, and I would love to hear that from DOPs. Thanks. Thank you for this beautiful lecture. I was really moved. I'm also an actor, and I thought, oh, I mean, also an actress. What can these actors tell me? I'm really grateful. This was a very good lecture. It will stay with me for a long time, maybe until the end of my life. So just to think about it, it was beautiful. So my question, I'm talking about large scenes, which a lot of extras. To what extent in such scenes where many people are taking part and they are focused not only on you, but I mean there's like monumental scenes. How in such situations do you keep to yourself? How do you retain being yourself, and when do you bend and adapt? Because if you want to repeat and you want to ask something, the whole machine has to stop. There's somebody's not there because they're taking care of extras. To what extent in such huge scenes, how do you find this moment to take care about yourself and about your matters, and to adapt, because I have trouble with that. What do you mean adapt yourself? To to understand that there's a lot to organize, and you and there's always a moment whether it's important or not to ask things or not, whether it's good or not, or do we move on? If this refers to the expression of the scene, something that is important in the scene, then I think you should always ask. With everything else, try to deal with it yourself, including correcting your costume and remembering where you should have the handbag in which hand. Bringing your props back, etc. I always try then to organize everything around myself to the extent that, I mean, even if it's not within my competences, but if I have a question that relates to the scene, I always ask that question. I was never even thinking about handbags and about props. I was, yes, but what I said is that I'm really telling you, I sometimes go beyond my competence, my scope responsibilities, because I can do it, because between two shots there will be 10 minutes of a break. I can really take all those plates back, and the prop guy will have more time to do something else and be with the extras and do other things. And I'm sitting at this table, so I can. It's just an example. What's more, this is okay, because this helps to keep focus. I focus here on what's happening around me, and I'm not listening to everything that's being said on the set, all the preparations for the second shot. If you have doubts whether you should ask a question which you think is important for the scene, don't hesitate. Always ask the question, because that in such scenes, in collective scenes, it's easy later to get to have this generality, because nobody will ask the questions, and it will become so generally good. But if you look at the details, it will not have any expression. It will be about nothing. I would really sort of always ask. What inspired you to do what you do, and what was your path? How did you end up here? How was it some sort of a person, or was it your initial feeling that this is how you want to live? And what ignited in you this impulse to do what you do? I got the impulse from my love to dress up. I was dressing up in all clothes of my mother, 17 skirts, when I was 5 years old, and then I communicated to my parents that I will become an actress. So I don't really remember that, and they did not treat that 100% seriously, because it can always change like 150 times. It's like a men, like guys who say that they want to be a fireman. Not many of young boys finally end up as firemen. At the end of the day, I think there were other impulses and other motivations which added up on top of this. So, for example, I really loved to learn poems by heart. And when I was bringing out to some party with my parents, I always went out in the middle. I bowed and I recited a poem, and then I went to eat the cake, because reciting a poem was more important for me than eating the cake. I was maybe 6 years old. My closest cousin is a set designer, Joanna Macha. She's a bit older than me, but at some point, all the family parties started to be our spectacles, because we were presenting a film, or we were playing out some theatrical piece, or we were, for example, acting out some scenes from TV shows, everything. There was everything there. And that only evoked my willingness to become an actress. So I never had a moment of hesitation in my life to do something else. That was something that's how I imagine. This might be sound very lofty, but I think it was my calling. I felt that, and it is so that you feel something and you follow your heart, and that's how I ended up here. Thank you. Everybody's waving at me. That we're short on time. Doesn't mean that everybody has to move to other place. Do I have to go and catch the train or whatever? Well, oh, there's another lecture in this room. Okay. Thank. We were late half an hour. I want. I wanted to ask you who were your masters in terms of being direct and being true to yourself. I'm not asking about method, but about being light, being courageous, concrete people. Which actors, which actresses do you believe to be those light, courageous people who are themselves? Can you see it in their play? I mean, or I don't know. Brad Pitt was courageous and light, or in some concrete creation, so that we can imagine how what you uh, advise to the artist. Can you other people in whose artistic work you can see that? It's not gonna be easy. This will be difficult for me because it's very difficult for me to call upon concrete films of people. I can tell you that. Let me just get me this piece of paper. What were these points? I have this feeling that young Johnny Depp was courageous. That I saw courage in what he participates in and how he enters these projects. And lightness? Yes. Yeah, I felt lightness in him. I'm trying to. I can find. I'm trying to look for someone who would be inconsistent. No, no. For me, Malkovich is not like this. More likely, like you say, you see variability, shifting, or I said variability. Yes, that's what I had in mind. You can look in many different places, but it's a difficult question for me because the people I work with or who taught me, I never considered them to be my masters. I never had this. I never had a master, a teacher. I didn't have like a mentor. Teacher, it was Leonard Cohen. He was the only one I could consider to be my master, with whom I held on to, not in my domain. I mean, because I'm not singing. Okay, I'm singing, but I'm not a good singer. It's a difficult question, especially that when we talk about the variability, I'm not talking about people who are variable in their roles. I'm talking about allowing yourself as an artist for certain variability in life. I'm talking about ourselves and what reflects to us directly every day, and not something that gets reflected in your roles. There are actors actors who are themselves throughout their lives. They're not really their characters. We can always see them themselves, even and they're ingenious in that. So this is not a requirement. This variability that you, for example, put wigs a lot or um, has a slump or changes the way of speech. That's not the changing that I have in mind. And I think this lightness is also seen maybe when you meet someone on the set, because somebody can play very difficult roles in which you will never find this lightness. Yes, right. It's the ability to adapt. This is a really great description. Certain openness to what is happening, and we don't know this before we meet that person in person. So it's difficult for me to give you such examples. Two more questions, and I'll try to keep it short. Who did you get up today as? I got up today as a person in a braided violet skirt, but today I got up straightened up. I got up in a sunny, warm country. I got up thin, unusually. I got up today with long hair down to my waist. And I got up today with a feeling of adventure. Y- You look like a Thumbelina on this table there. I wanted to ask you, because this question relates to the other one. We know that you always you always knew that it's your destiny. But were there moments when you said it's very hard and I would like to be someone else? How did you stay in this? I mean, were there no moments in your life then you had any doubts about that? I mean, the moments of life being hard, they're always there. But of life being that life is hard does not mean that I want to do something else. Life's hard, but I know I want to be an actress. It's hard, and I know that it is a world in which I want to be, the world of people who create. It's something without which I would not be able to live. The artistic world, I do have an impression that show business or the artistic world is surrounded by some really artificial cliches, which I really never encountered them. I encounter good, open people who have problems with whom they have to tackle that problems. They have to get out of those problems just like everybody else, who are very sensitive, who try to get out of themselves their deepest and most painful or most significant personal things. I meet people who with whom I want to be. and I cannot imagine moving now and resigning from this, even though that it's sometimes, it's quite often, it's very hard. Very often, if now that you ask me, you already asked me, let me answer. I will be very frank with you. Even now, I'm currently in a moment when I'm thinking, what next? And not if I will be an actress, or maybe I will, I don't know, set up a real estate office or agency, because I do not have ideas like that. But I was wondering what my work job will be like that, because I've spent several months in hospital and I'm just getting back to form, and I don't know what that form would look like, and I don't know what it will allow me to do. I didn't work for a very long time, and I feel that I feel very good with that. It works well for me personally, for my development, the time that I have for myself, this time devoted to things which are more important than making another movie. So also today I'm at the moment of thinking how how to create the proportions for myself, that it is not so tiring, that it's not so exhausting to limit this, and so that I can do things which are important for me, but at the same time so that I have time for myself, and the time currently until the end of the year to go back to my strength, to gather my strength. And I have to already, unfortunately, I already have to plan what I agree and disagree with for the next year, what is worth my effort and what's not worth my effort. So it's very difficult. The life's difficult with every movie, when you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and for the whole day stand in March in cold water and shiver and sort of make up that it's July and it's so beautiful and this water is so beautifully warm, fantastically warm. I'm giving you like a very simple external example. It's always difficult, but these are burdens which do not undermine the beauty of what I would still want to work on. Of course, it might happen that somebody just doesn't want to move on. I think Marek Konrad, for example, he's happy with his resignation from being an actor. He made so many beautiful things, and we know he's an ingenious actor. But at some point, he decided that it's enough for him, that he spent too much of his life on this, and he decided otherwise, and let him be happy. Let's not limit ourselves in courage and lightness in relation to our life. I can't tell you I will not be set up a tailor shop, which I dreamt about. Maybe I will set up a tailor shop apart from being an actress. You know, these are like small dreams that I'm sharing with you. But no, apart from the first year when it was very difficult for me because I left home, and that was a complete change, and when really I had those 3 months when I was absolutely convinced that I have to finish this, and this is not this is not for me, I will not manage. Apart from that, I never had such a moment or will to resign. You have to agree, and so you have to come to terms with the fact that it is difficult, but it is beautiful. Let's stay with that. Let's stay with the thought that it's difficult and beautiful, and not with just the thought that it's difficult. Life's difficult, our work is difficult, but at the end of the day, it's beautiful. And this is my wish to you. I'm finishing now because the next lecture has started 45 minutes ago. Thank you very much. And now I have to leave this place somehow. My dears, if you can stay or invite your friends to the next lecture corresponds very well with what we've heard now. We have Irena Gruca-Rozbicka with us from Crew United. How to make an international career as an actor. You're invited. Thank you.